A midnight walk with a golden retriever is supposed to be the most routine, harmless part of your day. You walk the same loops, past the same dark driveways, until your brain eventually shifts into a state of total security. But that routine breaks the second your dog stops. At the edge of the park, mine went into an absolute freeze. No barking, just a low, vibrating growl directed at a patch of pitch-black darkness deep in the trees. This diagram shows the rationalization trap. When your dog detects a threat, your brain hits a cognitive bias barrier. Instead of processing the danger, you invent a safe explanation, like the wind or a stray deer, to force a safe state output and avoid panic. Dogs don't have this luxury. They lack the ability to rationalize away their fear, meaning they only react to concrete physical stimuli. If they are growling at the shadows, it's because their biology has confirmed something is actually there. When we ignore those nonverbal alarms to protect our own comfort, we effectively shut down the only natural defense system capable of spotting a predator in the dark. We see this play out in the story of a grandfather walking a dirt path near his farm at sunset. Because the path was familiar, he was primed to ignore the small, strange anomalies that a stranger might notice immediately. He passed a man in a deep hood and offered a polite hello, but his dog, Sherry, refused to let it go. She kept twisting back, barking into the fading light, long after the man walked past. When he finally turned, he saw the man stalking him from behind a tree. As the grandfather tried to reach his house, he heard the distinct sound of boots crunching on leaves just inches behind him, matching his pace perfectly. A gloved hand suddenly covered his face, cutting off his breath. It was only the dog's violent intervention, biting and snapping at the man's legs, that created the microsecond distraction he needed to reach for his pepper spray and fight back. The predator relied on the quiet, synchronized approach to achieve a total surprise. Without the dog constantly checking that blind spot, the ambush would have been over before the grandfather even knew he was being followed. That threat only intensifies when you remove the suburban safety net. A solo camper in the winter woods found himself in a scenario where the absolute silence makes every movement feel amplified. His dog, Roscoe, began barking aggressively at the tree line long before any human ears could have picked up a sound. By the time the camper heard footsteps in the snow, the intruder was already standing at the edge of the firelight. This mapping of sensory asymmetry shows why the camper was at such a disadvantage. His vision was locked into that tiny circle of firelight, while the dog tracked a moving dot in a much larger ring, sensing a predator using darkness as a wall. Once the camper retreated inside, he was completely blind. He had to rely entirely on the dog's physical movements against the tent fabric to know exactly where the man was standing outside. Back at the park with my own dog, I chose to fall for the rationalization trap. I decided the shadows were empty, tugged on the leash, and finished the walk in a state of manufactured peace. Surviving these moments isn't usually a matter of human logic. It all depends on whether you are willing to trust an animal's senses over your own need to feel safe. That feeling of safety disappeared the next morning. I walked out onto my porch and found dried, muddy boot prints leading from the steps directly to my living room window. The threat in the park hadn't stayed in the shadows. A drifter in the woods is a terrifying encounter, but there is a different level of danger when the observer is embedded in your own neighborhood, hiding in plain sight. One woman remembered walking past her new neighbor's house and seeing a distinctive bald man at their table. The moment she was spotted, the curtains were instantly closed. It felt suspicious, but she eventually rationalized it away as a weird neighborhood quirk. Years later, she saw that exact same man sitting in a bar in Paris. Seeing him halfway across the world suggested that the suspicious moment on her street wasn't a coincidence. It was a single data point in a decade of being followed that she was only now beginning to piece together. The final reality is that when your dog alerts to someone on your street, the encounter doesn't end just because you go back inside and lock the door. You haven't escaped the predator. You've simply shown them exactly where you live. The next time your dog stares into the darkness of your own backyard, pay attention. They might be seeing a face you've been ignoring for years. Subscribe for more true accounts of the things that the shadows.